3 years ago, I was making $44,000 a year as an entry-level client service rep at a financial advising company, and today I make $140,000 a year as a senior analyst. And throughout this journey, the past couple years, I didn't take any shortcuts. There was no crazy luck. I believe that there is a very clear path that anybody could follow to also get to this point. So in this video, I am going to break down exactly what I did so that you can speed up your own journey to a six-figure salary. So what is your dream salary by age 30? Drop it down below in the comments. I'd love to hear. So jumping into the video here, giving you guys kind of the starting point of when I was making $44,000 a year. This was February of 2022. I was a client service rep at a financial advising firm. Basically what that means is that somebody would call to talk to their financial advisor, and I would try to be like that first point of contact. That way it is not like they had to talk to the advisor the entire time. Let's say they decall and they be like, hey, I want to change my address on my Fidelity account. I want to change it from this location here to this location. I want to talk to the advisor. I could basically just do it for them. And honestly, it was a lot of work. It was not hard at all. It was very, very easy. And I had a bachelor's degree in finance. So it really just felt like, I was using my degree fully. It was more administrative work more than anything. And when I was making $44,000 a year, it is really not that much money. I am not saying it is horrible money, but it is definitely not good. I would say, like in most states, $44,000. You are probably going to want to have roommates or live in a pretty small space. I would assume a lot of times you are living paycheck to paycheck. And even if you are like very frugal, making $44,000 a year, you can only save so much money. And so it is really hard to build a substantial amount of wealth at that income level. And that was kind of one of the first problems I realized with it. And I think a lot of people in their early 20s can be in that same boat, whether they remaking, I don't know, 4450 or 55K a year. You can work pretty hard and you can be really good at your job, but the money just isn't really going to stretch it out much. In regards to your monthly budget, and again, that is even if you are extremely frugal, like Don T, get me wrong, if you live at home with parents and you have no expenses, then a salary like that is going to go a lot further. But for most people that whether you are living out on your own or you have roommates or you are trying to get by and pay all your bills, it is not really going to go that far in most states. And so that is a little bit about the background and the starting point here. Now, basically what happened was in March of 2022, I decided to move basically across the country to an entirely different state that I had only visited a few times. I had some friends from college that lived there in the city and they really liked it. And in my mindset, it was like, okay, well, I can move out to the city. Maybe I could get a new job. And with that new job, hopefully I can make more money, as well as the fact that the state I was moving to was going to be a lot lower cost of living. So I was like, okay, this could be, a win-win here. And I really just did not want to settle for this salary of $44,000 a year because I knew that even if I worked really hard at this job, salary wasn't going to go up much. I wasn't going to go from 44 to 60, 85 to 90 to 100. Like this wasn't a job that was like that. It was basically like you are either a client service rep or you become a financial advisor. And even the advisors weren't making crazy money either, unless if they've been doing it for decades. So in my mind, it was like, I don't really want to go this route. I want to make a lot more money a lot sooner. So in my mindset, I did not want to settle with this salary. And the reason it is important to look at the bigger picture here is when you are in your early 20s, that is some of the best times to be investing, because a lot of times you are a single person, you are not married, you don't have kids. It is a really good time to just try to live within your means and build a really good foundation for, when you do want to get married and have a family. And of course, this is going to be a different timing for everybody. Some people want to do that when they reach 25, some people maybe not until they reach 30, but for people ages 20 to 25, this is a great time to set up a solid financial foundation for yourself. That way it can last you for decades. The way I've kind of lived my 20s is Don T view it as a time to be kind of coasting by. I feel like it is a good time to lay a really solid foundation for my life. So going back to the job thing here. So like I said, February 2022, I am making $44K a year. I end up getting a job as a financial analyst, making $55K a year in a state that has no state income taxes. So that was great because I went from a high tax state to a no income tax state. So that was already a win. And then on top of that, I am making an extra $11,000 a year, which is really cool. So basically during that time, I moved to this different state. I am working fully remote, which actually was not bad at all. And this was a really good time for me to develop my presentation skills because I was a financial analyst. I was presenting a lot of pretty large data to people that were kind of higher up in their company. So that was good, as well as getting a lot better at Microsoft Excel, which was like one of the main programs I use for even my job today. It is really important. So being able to get really good at Excel, as well as being able to present data to people that some people may be very intimidated by. For me, after a while, you just get kind of used to it. So it is not as intimidating. And you also know what to expect from certain people if you've presented to them more than once. And the way I got really good at these things was honestly just practice. It was working very hard at my job, and I knew that every time I was learning a new skill, whether it was in a program or whether it was Tableau or Power BI or all these different softwares I was using, I knew that this would be adding to my resume and stacking it up, because I knew that although this job was good right now, I didn't want to do this long term. I didn't want to do this for 3 to 5 years, because I didn't really like presenting to clients and being outward facing. I'd rather present to somebody who is a CFO of my own company than to have to present to a bunch of different people outside of my company. And that is just how I am personally. But like I said before, every new skill that I learned, I knew would be something that I could speak to on my resume, which would come in handy a year later. And so basically after a year and a couple of months, I kind of realized with this job, no matter how hard I worked, that they were not going to promote me no matter what they did. They would tell me, hey, I want you to learn this, this, and this. And, at that time, once you learn this stuff, then you can get promoted. I would go learn those skills. I'd come back. I'd talk to my manager and say, hey, I know how to do all these things now. What next? He'd say, okay, but also you have to learn this, this, and this. So he kept moving the line instead of just giving me a big list saying, hey, if you learn all these things, you will get promoted. He would just move the line further and further and further away. And so over time, I just realized I am not going to move up much salary-wise. Here I'm going to start looking for a new job, and I'm going to see if I can just become a senior analyst right off the bat, which normally for senior analyst jobs, you typically want to have 3 to 5 years of experience. But I only had a little over 1 year experience. But in my mind, it was like, hey, I don't really have much downside here. It is at least worth applying to these other jobs. I ended up interviewing for a couple of months, had tons of rejections, and eventually I had a company that gave me a pretty good offer of $85K a year. So at this point, I am now making $85,000 a year as a senior analyst, which was just awesome. My boss was only a couple years older than me. He gave me a lot of really good exposure to people high up in the company, whether it was the VP or the senior vice president or even the CFO. And this job was more internal, which is what I was looking for. I didn't want to keep presenting things to people externally. So it was really nice in that regard. And one of my favorite things about this $85K a year job was that the people I was working with were all around my age. So it was just a really good environment to be in. A lot of the people were very nice, super relatable, and everybody was kind of willing to help out. Even if you were given something that was super intimidating over time, you pick up confidence because the team would they let you grow in a way. Like everybody was supporting one another, but then you still have to own certain stuff and figure it out on your own. So it was a nice combination of, being able to take a risk, but knowing that if you messed up, it is not the end of the world. It really put you in an environment to help grow and build even more skills. So now at this point, my skills in Excel had gotten very advanced, as well as just like long-term financial modeling a lot of. When it comes to finance, I got very advanced over the past 2 or 3 years, whether it is building out a huge model in Excel or being able to present financial data, or having to do something in a very quick time period that is kind of complex to most people, which that made me extremely reliable. But it also gave me, again, more skills and more just things and examples for me to speak onto my resume, which is huge. It is about building your resume up and working really hard so that you have things to speak to. And I'll even make a whole separate video talking about how to interview well, because I think this was one of my biggest skills that helped me get to where I am today. So then I was working at this $85,000 a year job for a while. I worked there from about June of 2023 until January of 2025. And basically what happened was September of 2024, a different company announced that they were going to be acquiring the company I was going to work for. If you've ever heard of a company getting acquired, all you have to know is that if your company is getting acquired, the odds of you getting laid off have gone up substantially. So for me, I was like, I don't want to get laid off. I want to have consistent income, coming in. Therefore, I am going to try to leave this job and see, even if I can just get a senior analyst role elsewhere, maybe I could still see my pay go up from 85 to, 100, 110, 115, somewhere around there. Would have been great. And it took me months of interviewing. It was actually really painful because I started interviewing in September and I didn't have my last interview until the end of December. So this took about 4 months straight of interviews. And the awesome thing here was at this most recent job that I am currently working in, I went from $85K a year at my last job to $120,000 a year base plus a $20K bonus at this next job. And that was a huge jump. Like, most senior analyst positions pay between 100 to 120 in total comp, but now I am making 140 in total comp, and I am not saying this to brag or try to flex. But one of the main things that you are going to notice here is that I am just joining companies. I am working extremely hard. I am trying to add a lot of skills and a lot of things to my resume. And then after a while, if I feel like I don't if there is no value or there is not much, position for me to move up and try to grow, I just jump to a different company. There is really not much downside. And the reason I say that is because option A is that you just keep working at your same company and you don't really move up much. Or option B is that you interview with a new company. Either they reject you and you go back to working for your same company, which is what you were going to be doing anyways, or they give you a really good offer and hopefully you get a better work environment. Make More money, you have good work-life balance. Like there is a lot of upside to interviewing at new companies, and because the new companies don't know your prior salary, you can also leverage that a lot when it comes to salary negotiations. Because at your current company, if you are making, let's say, 55K a year, and they go to promote you, they may change it from 55K to, I don't know, 65 or 70K. But if you go from 55K previous company to a new company, then you can make more of like a $30, $40, $50,000 jump in total pay, which is huge. And so some of the main takeaways that I want you guys to have from this is to not settle for your first salary and know that long term, just try to build your skills up and try to see where you can jump ship if you need to. You don't want to sit there and get 3% raises year after year. If there is any way you can move up in salary, even if it is leaving your company, go ahead and do it, because long term it is probably going to play out well. But always make sure when you are interviewing at new companies to ask a lot of questions. That way you don't get thrown into something that you are going to be miserable in for a year, 2, 3 years. And again, you can just do this every year to a year and a half, kind of like the way I've been doing. So I am very aware that long term, or at least medium term, I'm going to stay at this company for the next couple of years. But then if I get to the 3-year mark and there is really not much growth that I've seen, like if I haven't gotten promoted, or if I just feel like I am not really learning that much anymore, then I'll look to jump again. But that is just kind of my logic. And again, there's not much downside there. And I know that changing jobs can be very intimidating. But in my opinion, changing jobs is one of the best ways to increase your total comp. And if you live below your means and you increase your salary over time, like I said, that 44K is not going to get you very far, but 140K is going to get you a lot further. Like even if you go from 55 to 100K, I mean, that extra $45,000 a year is going to add up big time, especially if you can keep your expenses flat. That is just going to give you a lot more money to invest. Every single month, if you follow these steps in your 20s, you can absolutely get to 6 figures way faster than you think. Do not let the older generations tell you that you need to work at the same company for 10 plus years. Don't follow that it is a load of bullshit, because at the end of the day, the quickest way to move up in salary is to change companies, and there is a lot of studies showing that right now. But also, if you are at a good company that does help you grow and move up pretty quickly, I wouldn't necessarily jump ship from that either. So just be very aware of where the potential growth is for you and try to do a lot of research if you can, cause that is definitely going to help long term. And again, work hard, stack up your skills, and you will be set for the long haul. So that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop like down below, hit that subscribe button. ILL. See you in the next one. Peace.